Marc is introduced as an exceptional natural gas safety advocate who is passionate about promoting fire prevention, reducing harmful emissions, and educating consumers about best practices in gas leak detection throughout his company, New Cosmos USA, and their industry-leading gas detection alarm, DeNova Detect. Marc's responsible for connecting with utilities, communities, and people around smarter natural gas safety products for the U.S. market, to which he became a leading voice in the industry. Marc has over 25 years of experience driving the development and implementation of commercialized global solutions for technology sector in advancement of IoT, fourth and fifth generation technologies, wireless mobility and network architecture for enterprise broadband telecom networks that have included AMI for water, electric, demand response, substation management solutions, and now AMI technology for utilities. Marc's a lifelong Midwestern resident of Chicago, Illinois, married for 26 years, father of 2 children, and welcome as a new addition to the New Cosmos USA team. Fun fact, and I didn't even know this, Marc is, you never told me, Marc is related to a retired professional NBA athlete and basketball Hall of Famer, Chris Webber. I did not know that. So you never mentioned that. Okay, with that, we'll turn it over to Marc.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. All right, good afternoon, and welcome to the post-lunch coma hour. First of all, thanks to Heath and to the Atmos teams. It's good to be here with partners like Heath and, of course, even our partners at Con Ed. And Rick Trias and I, we shared a ride earlier this week from the hotel to this facility, and there are 2 parts that we agreed on as we were driving. One is that we believe that gas safety and emissions reduction is the highest priority for the work that we do. The second is that winter hats from Heath was a great idea because bald lives matter in the wintertime, so especially at a hockey game. So, I was listening to Paul in terms of the bio. Thank goodness most of you are still eating, but I've heard a lot of the pedigrees associated with the speakers over the last 36 hours, and in terms of their education and experience and just the passion that they have. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I need more letters behind my name or something. So the only thing I could come up with is Chris Webber, and he's been retired for I don't know how long. But nonetheless, I'm surely just honored to be here. So maybe a little more background might help. So I have, as Paul said, 25 years in the telecommunications industry. I've been involved in deploying legacy PBX and IP telephony systems, dedicated internet, T1, DS3 systems. I know I'm dating myself. But also have been participatory in the mobility space within several national commercial carriers in second generation SMS, GPS, first and second generation packetized data over the internet. So if any of you remember the blazing speeds of 2800 baud, or what ultimately is 56K, that dial-up era was surely revolutionary. But right up to designing IoT platforms for commercial businesses, and of course, smart grid would be one that most are familiar with on the substation side in terms of demand side management systems. Other industries include transportation, agriculture, and insurance for risk mitigation. So I helped to work on bringing to market the first commercialized products for usage-based insurance. So it's little devices that go into your car to sort of monitor and measure emissions, ironically, for vehicles that were manufactured after 1970. So born and raised in Illinois. I am married 26 years. I have 2 boys. My commitment to the industry is that every RMD that I sell goes to feed hungry women and children in the Midwest. So nobody caught that one. That's all right. So I told my wife that was not going to go over well. So anyway, but when Heath invited me to speak, I I changed my presentation from what was mostly product-centric. Surely I'll talk about the product, but more of a safety-centric message for this particular forum, and I'm glad that I did, because Paul said it yesterday, is that we're all in this together. I consider us to be gas safety advocates and ambassadors, and at the end of the day, we're all consumers. And so I'll give a few anecdotes associated with the product as we go, but my objective today is to really kind of highlight what it means to New Cosmos to ensure the safety of people where they live, work, and play. So I'm going to jump ahead here and maybe kind of do a New Cosmos safety moment. So just by a raise of hands, kind of build this out for you. How many of you, is it showing? Good. How many of you have a carbon monoxide or smoke alarm at home? Just raise your hands. Pretty much the majority. So how many of you have the natural gas or propane alarm at your house? Right. Yeah. So natural gas or propane alarm at home? Right. So, I mean, the whole point in this, and of course, work would probably be similar in terms of the fact that, you know, natural gas is, we all know that it's efficient, it's affordable, it's clean. 187 million Americans are using it, 5.5 million businesses, 900,000 restaurants, 185,000 manufacturing facilities. And outside of the fact that it's hard to detect, based upon the fact that the odorant, you know, for those that are either over 65 or 70, those that are dealing with COVID, RSV, and other forms, it's just a real challenge. But before I go further, I'm going to back up and maybe talk a little bit about, maybe I'll use a clicker. There you go. All right. So New Cosmos USA was founded in 2018, and we are headquartered in a suburb of Illinois. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of New Cosmos Electric, which was also formed in 1960, and they are headquartered in Osaka, Japan. NCE is a publicly traded organization. They do about $350 million in annual revenues per year. Their primary market focus is gas and electric operators. And so they focus on selling gas detection devices and services in the consumer, commercial, and the heavy industrial space. So they also additionally focus on sensor technology, mostly through R&D, and they also do manufacturing. They have the largest facility in the world, which is also in Osaka. NCE was the first to invent the residential methane detector in 1964. Year to date, they have sold about 70 million alarms globally, and they are responsible for the virtual elimination of gas-related fatalities in Japan. So let me say that again. They are responsible for the virtual elimination of gas-related fatalities in Japan. So now, wouldn't that be a headliner for the United States? We are a market leader, and currently we serve as the only manufacturer with a mass-scale deployment in the United States, which is just south of 250,000 devices. And so we're surely thankful and humbled in terms of being able to support the ecosystem as it is. So there's a couple of challenges that we face today, and we all know that those challenges in the industry are centered around standardization, yet reliable performance and ensuring public safety has been and always will be the industry's top priority. But it's the serious events that continue to happen, and frankly, it's the lack of detailed reporting on gas and the odorization and the leaks that are caused mostly by consumers who don't call and don't act or respond is why many gas leaks continue to occur. The key factor here, however, is that it's 2024. And so we no longer have to rely on our olfactory senses, our sense of smell. And so that doesn't have to be our only line of defense in terms of identifying potentially hazardous gas leaks. I would share with you that, not speaking anecdotally, but there's heavy compiled data from PHMSA which supports a compelling case for the widespread use of fuel gas alarms. Furthermore, the NFPA data shows that we have a significant means with which to improve safety with the addition of natural gas alarms when it comes to reducing events, minimizing fatalities, and averting risk. And in the evolution of the industry, we still have an opportunity to improve safety and to drive widespread adoption of natural gas fuel detectors in the hands of consumers that can be propagated through the industry. If you're looking for additional reference data, the National Transportation Safety Board also agrees with the data from PHMSA and the analysis that calls for raising the bar on those same safety standards. Now, Mary Palkovich, who was here earlier yesterday, she mentioned the fact that events drive policy and policy drives law, and I fully agree with that. After Japan established, from having about 50 deaths every year, they required a mandate associated with the installation of gas alarms. And the first alarms were implemented by work through New Cosmos and the Japanese government in 1980, and it led to the virtual elimination of gas-based fatalities by 2019. And there haven't been a single incident since. NCE has relationships currently with approximately 200 utilities in Japan, and currently we maintain about 70% market share. So I promised Rick that I would not go into a lot of detail. I don't want to steal any thunder. And frankly, it's better that you take the testimony of a peer than the opinion of a stranger. That's just my philosophy. But the point of the fact is that it's commendable data, which actually affirms that not just in Japan, but in the United States, natural gas detectors are making a difference in public safety. And so I'll allow him to sort of expand on that. So there was a comprehensive industry approach to that consumer adoption that the industry took on. And if you consider some of the elements associated with that, these are all things that relate to what is now a three-legged stool of success for how it is that we move forward. If you consider the elements for adoption, for device response in terms of how it is that the device behaves, the performance of that device over its life cycle, proper placement in terms of that device, and of course the standards and recommendations from the industry and the appropriate associations. And one of the larger ones is addressing sort of the false positives, right, in detection and alarm, and then down to the behavior studies and how it is that we generate public awareness and the improvements of that awareness. It really just came down to, and continues to be, somewhat of a low customer adoption. Now, despite the US or Japan, natural gas detectors have had some challenges adoptively, but it was the industry that ultimately came together to address the barriers to consumer adoption and putting science around the placement and detection thresholds within the development of the NFPA 715 and then an update to the UL 1484 standards. So I believe the way forward in driving education is continuing to evangelize to consumers with a singular message around solutions that simply go beyond the nose. And this is something that the industry can absolutely double down on. Standards for device performance and installation are two of the three essential elements needed to enable widespread adoption of fuel gas detectors as public safety devices, just like smoke and just like carbon monoxide. So the key emphasis that we make, through our website and through our social media and a lot of other things that we do, that we communicate to consumers as well as utilities, is both around placement and the need to have a gas alarm for each gas appliance per NFPA and UL standards. Since our device is 100% battery powered, unlike standard plug-in devices, there's no cord. So the device can be installed as recommended within the standard, right? So that's on a vertical, it's 12 inches from the ceiling, and on a horizontal, it's within 3 feet of proximity, no more than 10 feet away from a natural gas appliance. So the third leg of the stool, of course, is the technology, and that addresses both the industry and the residents to kind of leverage that technology to provide smarter gas safety detection. And this conforms to the UL 1484 standard. Our product conforms to the UL 1484 standard. And this means that the device is calibrated to alarm at a 10% lowest explosion limit, or LEL. And at our factory in Japan, we calibrate that prior to shipment, which will last for the life of the device. So it does not need to be calibrated again. In addition, the device, per the standard, cannot be considered an ignition source in its environment where natural gas is present. Now, depending upon the state, LELs vary from 20 to 25% LEL, and 10% is the idea behind that is to actually have the RMD to alarm and to alert at the same time when the occupant or resident would detect the odorant. And that's an effective validation point. It's almost like two-factor authentication. But as far as UL 1484 as a standard, that standard was approved in February of 22. It actually goes into effect June of this year. And it really serves as an alarm set point for combustible gas detectors on a whole. Demonstrating its resistance to false alarms from other chemicals. I'm sure that the Con Ed presentation may cover this, but the key is that nuisance alarms are virtually eliminated. Our patented micro electromechanical, or MEMS, sensor technology allows for supporting a battery-powered device, and that it provides about 600 times the power efficiency over the life of that residential methane detector unit. And that allows to maintain a 10-year lifespan as a standalone device, both the sensor and the battery. The device allows for easy installation, as I mentioned, in accordance with NFPA 715 recommendations, and it provides an audible alarm also with a distinctive multi-language voice recording that directs homeowners for what to do at alarm when the gas is detected. DeNova Detect has been commercially deployed over the last 4, almost now 5 years to prove these various things and to really raise the bar in establishing smarter natural gas leak detection and safety. So we'd like to look at it as definitely a gold standard. Again, I'm sure that Rick is going to highlight similar architecture within their model, but the point here is that there are multiple technologies that are actually available in terms of establishing the necessary chain of communication, right? So in terms of detection, notification, response, the benefit there is that whether you're at an AMR level and moving to AMI for your internal and external chain of communications, the operating procedures in terms of how it is that you respond to alerts associated with these RMDs, there are multiple ways to sort of get down the road with regards to that. There are many solutions that include various OEMs. There's companies like Census, Itron, which has multiple variants within their legacy network platforms, mostly by acquisition. Landis & Gyr, Aclara. It's not that we have integrated to every one of those platforms. However, we do have multiple projects and pilots that are ongoing with several LDCs to explore and validate how connected and non-connected devices can fit into their strategy for business. New Cosmos recently released a 10-year non-wireless consumer product in partnership with Lowe's, and that was in December of last year. And so thanks to Heath, each of you now have one of these for your own home. At the start of 2024, we also released a combination alarm of natural gas and carbon monoxide that's also non-connected to address market share opportunities in terms of existing carbon monoxide in that space for consumers who had one but not the other. So, and they really could benefit from a 10-year product, which of course is where the industry is going, as opposed to the devices that are out there today, which mostly are 6-year or 7-year. As an R&D company, New Cosmos is always looking at ways to solve common challenges by leveraging smarter sensor technology to protect lives and property. And so we, and I include Heath in this statement, would love to be involved in your next current or future projects as part of our roadmap. So as I conclude here, as I said before, I believe that we now have the key elements required to advance the screen in terms of widespread adoption of these residential fuel gas detectors. This process will take some time. We understand it's a long game, right? It's evaluation. It's even your own practices for due diligence, so which we absolutely welcome. In the future, we also hope that some of our milestones would ultimately include continuing education of regulators, if not legislators, right, in terms of highlighting the added public safety benefits. So just like smoke and carbon monoxide detectors have been doing for decades, I consider this to be very much a common sense message. We have the need, we have the standards, and now we have the technology to make a significant difference in gas leak detection, reduction of emissions, and public safety. So we established our relationship early on with Heath, and I'm happy to report that the honeymoon period is now over. So we would hope that you would put them to work. But as Kevin Bendelay said best, just talk to the sales guys. So, but no, I really appreciate that. A final point that I would make, I realize that it is Valentine's Day. It's a more personal comment, but I have more of a sort of a Black History moment because it is February to share with you, and hopefully I'm not over my time, but and I'd like to get to your questions if there are any, but just a quick story. So my grandmother's name is Vivian Halliburton. She lived from 1919 to 2012, so she was 93 years old. So she was a true businesswoman. She spoke multiple languages. She taught English as a second language in Spain for 5 years. And she was the first African American to own a business on State Street in downtown Chicago, in the Loop. And, she made evening dresses. She would rent those dresses out because she had somewhat of a limited inventory, right? So she had to repurpose a lot of those dresses when they came back. But, she had some impressive clientele. It included Eva Gabor, for some of you remember her, and she actually was called on to make the evening gown for Miss Indiana, 1963. So neither of those, however, were her milestone moment. But the highlight for her was when, in the 60s, she got a renewed business license. Basically, she could continue to keep her business. And in the 60s, obviously, it was difficult for people of color, let alone women of color, to own a business anywhere. So I'm surely proud to come from a long line of innovators and entrepreneurs who really have a passion about what they do every day. So as I said before, my Nana, she told me that there are really two things in life that change people throughout the course of it. It's the books that they read and the people that they meet. And so, as I said, the pedigree here is largely impressive. And so I would hope that I'd get to meet many of you, as I already have, and surely looking forward to you considering DeNova Detect now and in the future and working with you because, as we've said before, we're sort of all in this together. So I do thank Heath for the time, and I'll try and take a couple questions. So my disclaimer is that I don't have a Vineet Agarwal, so I'm the guy here today. So may not be the engineer that you're looking for, but I will try and answer any questions that you might have. So.
Thanks. This is kind of an off-the-wall question, but because of this forum, I am interested in purchasing for my house one or more gas detectors. And so I looked on the internet, I think I went to the Amazon site, and saw that they're only like $14 to $17. Does that seem reasonable? Am I going to get a good gas detector for that money?
So that's a great question. There are a number of different alarms over the years that are available, right? And the one thing that I would say is that not only have I worked for a company like New Cosmos, this is a short anecdote, but in '93, there was a company by the name of Fleet Call. Maybe some of you remember it, but ultimately they were known for their brand of two-way radios called Nextel. And anybody that owned one of those devices know that it wasn't cheap. But it worked. And I think, for me personally, I have sort of a kindred spirit with Con Ed because, in 2001, September 11th, when the U.S. was attacked, there were a lot of systems that were no longer operative, but that wasn't one of them, at least, to a certain extent for a certain period of time in terms of first responders. So my response to your question is that there are sub $20 alarms. Many of them are not UL certified. Many of them are not consistent associated with the 10% LEL requirement. Many of them are plug-in devices. So, I mean, it's just a consideration associated with being a good consumer and understanding, what it is that's at stake. Our devices are a little higher. But at the end of the day, it's a 10-year device. As I said, they'll come in natural gas, combo units. We're working on propane. I think that was on my previous slide. So it's hard to determine where and to what extent these devices are being manufactured, but I mean, we've proven the technology associated with DeNova Detect, so that would be my recommendation to you. They are on Amazon. We do have a website. Obviously, if you're buying and, from a business perspective, Heath's team is available associated with making that decision. So hope that helps. Thank you.